Valith had never felt fear like this before, not even on the stormy plains of her homeworld, where lightning split the sky in two and predators roamed freely. But here, on the outer rim death world called Zyphera Prime, she realized fear had a new face. It was massive, scaled, and sharp-toothed, a creature that every species in the Galactic Council whispered about in horror. The apex hunter, they called it, and for a reason. Valith, a xenobiologist from the gentle, book-loving species called the Alari, had always believed in observation before interaction. Her kind relied on knowledge, not brawn. They had weak muscles, delicate bones, and soft skin. On Earth, humans might have seemed fragile, but to Valith, her own species was even more delicate. The expedition team had landed only hours ago. The metallic shuttle thrummed softly as it settled into the red-soiled clearing. Surrounding them were jagged mountains and forests of towering, glass-like plants that shimmered faintly in the dim light. The environment seemed alive, almost watching, and somewhere within it lurked the apex hunter, waiting, patient. Valith adjusted the strap of her observation pack, checking her scanners. Nothing yet. The humans in the group, just 2 in number, seemed oddly relaxed. One of them, Elias, carried only a small utility blade and a strange, confident smile. Valith had been warned that humans were unpredictable, but she had assumed they meant reckless, not fearless. The rest of the team included 2 Cran soldiers, a species built like walking tanks, and a scientist from the aquatic Shyler. They were armed, cautious, and tense. Even the Cran's scales were pale, a sign of nervousness. Valith herself felt her pulse quicken. She had studied predators, recorded their hunting behaviors, yet nothing could prepare her for the raw terror that came from being alive in their territory. "Keep your scanners active," the Shyler scientist said, her voice trembling in her own water-filled mask. "It could be anywhere." Valith nodded silently, eyes scanning the strange flora. She noticed movement, a shadow shifting between the glassy trees. The apex hunter had spotted them. Its silhouette was monstrous, larger than any known land predator in the galaxy. 4 massive legs, a long, whip-like tail, a head crowned with curved horns, and eyes that glowed faintly red, piercing even through the distance. The group froze. The creature growled, a low, rumbling vibration that seemed to shake the very soil beneath them. The Cran gripped their plasma rifles tighter. The Shyler scientist's tentacles recoiled. Valith felt the hair on her skin rise. This was the moment where instinct screamed run. But then, unexpectedly, Elias stepped forward. Valith's heart stopped. She had not seen anyone move. Not even a human with such weak limbs could consider facing that creature alone. And yet, he walked toward it with slow, deliberate steps, his blade glinting faintly. His face was calm, almost serene. "Wait, don't!" Valith shouted, but her voice seemed swallowed by the jungle. The apex hunter advanced, its claws sinking into the soft red soil. Its head lowered, nostrils flaring as it sized him up. Valith's eyes widened. Every muscle in her body screamed retreat, yet she could not look away. And then it happened. Elias didn't run. He dodged. He struck. And the creature staggered, not from sheer force but from precision. Every movement he made was calculated, every dodge timed perfectly. Valith felt her mind struggle to process what she was seeing. A human, soft and fragile, moving with a kind of effortless power that seemed impossible. The first swipe of his blade didn't pierce deeply, but it hit the creature's flank in exactly the right spot to throw it off balance. The apex hunter lashed out, claws swiping the air, but Elias avoided it with ease, rolling, then coming up behind the creature to strike again. Valith could see the other species watching, mouths agape, weapons lowered. No one expected this. Even seasoned warriors from war-torn planets had quaked at the apex hunter, yet here a human faced it without fear. Valith's scanner readings went wild. Heart rates of the human calm, adrenaline steady, strength output beyond any known human maximum. The battle was not loud, not chaotic. It was controlled, precise, almost elegant. Each strike, each movement seemed rehearsed, yet instinctive. Valith could not tear her eyes away. In moments, the apex hunter staggered backward, growling in frustration, clearly confused by the human skill. And then it paused, hesitated. Elias spoke. Not a shout, not a command, just a word, and the creature froze. Valith could not hear the tone, could not understand the language, but the power behind it was undeniable. The moment the predator lunged, Elias sidestepped, grabbed it by the foreleg, and with a swift, fluid motion, Valith could hardly believe her eyes, he threw the creature off its feet. It crashed against a tree, stunned. Valith stumbled backward, nearly falling. This was not supposed to happen. Humans were the weak ones, the species everyone underestimated. Yet here, in the heart of Zyphora Prime, a single human had proven more than capable of facing a being that had terrified the galaxy. The apex hunter recovered, eyes blazing with rage. It lunged again, faster, deadlier. But Elias was faster still. With a combination of speed, cunning, and raw human adaptability, he dodged, parried, and struck repeatedly. Valith could feel something change inside her. A mixture of awe, fear, and something else she had never felt before, respect. Humans were not weak. They were different. Their strength was not in sheer muscle or natural weapons. It was in their mind, their instincts, and their choice to act when all odds were against them. The battle seemed to stretch on forever, but within what felt like minutes, the apex hunter lay motionless, subdued, defeated not by technology, but by human skill, endurance, and strategy. Elias stood over it, breathing steadily, as if he had just completed a morning walk. Valith's hands shook. She could not comprehend what she had just witnessed. She had studied humans for years, but nothing in her records could explain this. She had read stories of human survival, of wars fought on distant worlds, of their rapid adaptability. But seeing it was different. Seeing them in action, facing death itself and prevailing, it changed everything. The other members of the expedition slowly approached, their fear replaced by cautious admiration. The Cran lowered their weapons, Shylar tentacles relaxed, and Valith felt a strange warmth in her chest. Humans, she realized, were the species no one truly understood. "Are you okay?" Valith finally asked, her voice trembling. Elias turned, smiling faintly, wiping a smear of dirt from his blade. "Yeah, just another day." Valith stared at him, mouth open. She wanted to ask 100 questions at once. How, why, and what gave them such strength? But the words failed her. She could only watch as the human she had underestimated walked calmly back toward the team. For the first time, Valith wondered if her species, and the rest of the galaxy, had been wrong about humans all along. The jungle around them seemed quieter now, almost respectful, as if even Zyphora Prime itself had acknowledged the human's power. Valith looked at Elias and realized one truth she could not ignore. Humanity survived not because it was the strongest species, but because it knew how to rise when it mattered most. And in that moment, Valith vowed to understand them, to study them, to learn how a species that seemed so ordinary could perform the extraordinary. The apex hunter might have been defeated, but the galaxy's perception of humanity had just begun to change. The sun of Zyphora Prime had begun to sink behind jagged mountains, painting the red landscape in deep shades of orange and violet. Valith sat on a smooth stone, her scanner humming quietly beside her. She couldn't stop thinking about what she had witnessed earlier. Humans were supposed to be weak, fragile, slow, but Elias had faced the apex hunter as if it were nothing. She replayed the scene in her mind over and over. The precise strikes, the calm control, the way he seemed to anticipate the predator's moves. Valith's species had always measured strength in muscle, claws, or natural weapons. Humans had none of these. And yet somehow, they were more than that. The rest of the team gathered around the campfire that evening. The Cran soldiers sat silently, eyes reflecting the flickering flames. The Schuyler scientist was scribbling notes on a water-resistant tablet. Valeth herself couldn't bring herself to speak first. She just stared at Elias, who was cleaning his blade with the quiet focus of someone who had done this many times before. "You're different," Valeth finally said, her voice soft. "I don't understand. How can humans survive like that?" Elias looked up, his calm blue eyes meeting hers. He smiled faintly. "Survive, we adapt, that's all," Valeth frowned. "Adapt, we all adapt. But no species in the galaxy can face an apex hunter and live, not without weapons, not without armor. Yet you didn't just survive, you defeated it." Elias shrugged. "Maybe we're lucky." Valeth shook her head. "No, it wasn't luck. It was skill, instinct, something I have never seen before." The night stretched on. Valeth sat quietly while the human team cleaned their equipment and the Cran muttered about the Predator's strange behavior. Valeth knew she couldn't wait any longer. She had to understand. She had to study the human, not just the Predator. Discovery the next morning, Valeth followed Elias quietly as he began to explore the surrounding jungle. Her scanner was set to monitor his movements, heart rate, and energy output. She wanted data, but she also wanted to see more of what made humans extraordinary. Elias moved carefully but confidently. He navigated thorny underbrush without a scratch. He avoided deep pools of sticky red mud and even small, camouflaged predators with ease. Valeth realized that his movements were efficient, not wasted in unnecessary effort. Every step, every motion was purposeful. She remembered the stories of humans she had read in her research reports. Tales of survival on their homeworld, Earth, which had been full of dangerous predators, unpredictable weather, and scarce resources. Humans had not only survived, they had thrived. Valeth had assumed those stories were exaggerations. Now she saw the truth. Her scanner confirmed it. Elia's strength output, pain tolerance, and reaction time exceeded any baseline for humans in the data she had collected. He could sprint faster, dodge more accurately, and recover from fatigue far better than she had imagined. Valeth could not stop herself. She whispered, "This is impossible." Elias stopped and turned toward her, sensing her presence. "Impossible, or just not understood," Valeth froze. The word struck her. She realized that humans were not trying to prove anything. They simply acted, instinctively and intelligently, when survival demanded it. The apex hunter returns as the team ventured deeper into Zyphora Prime. The forest seemed to grow darker, denser, almost alive. Strange noises echoed through the thick glassy trees. Valeth's skin tingled with unease. "Stay alert," she murmured to herself, checking her scanner. Suddenly, a roar echoed through the jungle. The apex hunter was not dead, it had returned. Or perhaps it had never truly left. Valeth's heart raced. The predator was faster than before, smarter, more aggressive. She could feel its presence before she even saw it. The Cran raised their weapons, ready to attack. The Schuyler scientist froze, her tentacles trembling. But Elias stepped forward. Valeth's mouth fell open. She wanted to yell to stop him, but she couldn't. He was already moving, confident, fearless. The apex hunter charged. Its claws struck the ground with force, shaking the red soil. Valeth could see its muscles tense, its jaws open wide. It was the ultimate predator, yet it seemed wary, as if it remembered the last encounter. Elias didn't hesitate. He dodged the creature's strike, sidestepped another, and moved with fluidity and calm precision. Valeth's mind struggled to keep up. Every strike he made was calculated, each step deliberate. He wasn't fighting blindly. He was predicting, reading the predator, and responding with accuracy no species in the galaxy had mastered. Valeth realized something crucial. Humans didn't rely on strength alone. They relied on intelligence, instinct, and adaptability. Their body, mind, and senses were all connected, working in perfect harmony. Understanding humanity after the encounter, Valeth finally had a chance to speak with Elias privately. They sat on a rocky ledge overlooking a glowing red swamp, steam rising from the surface. "I don't understand," Valeth admitted. "Your species, it's more capable than anyone thought, not just physically but mentally, emotionally. You remain calm under conditions that terrify others." Elias laughed softly. "We had to be. On Earth, every mistake could mean death. We learned to observe, predict, and respond, not all at once but together. That's how we survive." Valeth shook her head. "But facing an apex hunter, most species would run. Humans, you face it head-on." Elias shrugged. "We don't seek to fight. We fight because it's necessary. We survive because we choose to act when others hesitate." Valeth realized then why humans had always been underestimated. Other species measured strength by tools, claws, and weapons, but humans had something more subtle, more powerful: choice. They chose how to act, when to act, and how far to push themselves. And it was terrifying. Valeth glanced at her scanner again. Elia's energy output, heart rate, and precision were still beyond her expectations. She had spent decades studying species stronger than humans, but here was one who redefined what strength meant. The next challenge. As the team explored further, they encountered new dangers: smaller predators, toxic plants, and treacherous terrain. Each time, Valeth noticed how humans adapted instantly, finding clever ways to avoid danger, conserve energy, or use the environment to their advantage. At one point, a quicksand-like pit opened beneath a Cran soldier. Valeth expected panic, but Elias grabbed a sturdy vine, tossed it to the Cran, and guided him out safely. The other team members stared in awe. Valeth noted how human thinking combined observation, calculation, and instinct in a way no other species had mastered. That night, around the campfire, Valeth reviewed her notes and scanner data. She realized she had been wrong about humans for centuries. They weren't fragile. They weren't weak. They were calculated, adaptable, and relentless. Her thoughts were interrupted by Elias, who spoke softly. "You're surprised, aren't you?" Valeth nodded. "I thought I understood humans. I didn't. I think I've only seen a fraction of what you are capable of." Elias smiled. "Most species never do. Most assume we're weak, and that's fine. It keeps us alive." Valeth looked at him, finally understanding. The humans' true strength wasn't just in their body. It was in their mind, their instinct, and their choice to rise above fear. That was what made them formidable, more so than any predator in the galaxy. A new respect. By the end of Part II, Valeth had begun to see humans in a completely new light. They were not the weak species, the ones everyone underestimated. They were survivors, problem solvers, and warriors in their own right. Their strength lay not in raw power, but in their adaptability, intelligence, and courage. Valeth finally understood why the human had faced the apex hunter without fear. It wasn't recklessness. It wasn't madness. It was understanding, knowing exactly what to do and when to act. She looked at Elias as he slept beside the fire, his blade tucked safely under his arm, and felt a mixture of awe and respect. Humanity had survived countless worlds, countless challenges, and yet remained humble, choosing when and how to show its power. Valeth knew one thing for certain: the galaxy had not seen the last of humans. They were a species that would not only survive, but change everything around them. And for the first time, Valeth felt truly excited to be part of a story that would witness it. The skies over Zyphora Prime were streaked with shades of violet and crimson as the expedition team prepared to leave the Death World. Valeth walked beside Elias, her mind still buzzing from the last 2 days. She had witnessed him face an apex hunter without fear, navigate dangerous terrain, and protect the team with skill and instinct no species could match. Now she was beginning to understand what she had been missing all along: humanity. The ship's engines hummed as they lifted off from the red-soiled plains. The predator they had encountered was gone, subdued, and secured for study, but Valeth knew the experience would leave a lasting mark on the galaxy's understanding of humans. Valith glanced at Elias. He was quiet, calm, and focused, exactly as he had been during the encounters. He didn't boast, he didn't celebrate, he simply carried the weight of survival naturally, without arrogance. "They will never believe this," Valith said softly, referring to the Galactic Council. "No one will accept that a human can face an apex hunter and handle it." Elias shook his head. "They will have to, the proof will be enough." Valith frowned. "Proof? You mean the recordings, the data?" Elias nodded. "It's not about showing off. It's about demonstrating what humans are capable of, not to intimidate but to ensure they are understood." Valith pondered his words. Most species measured power through intimidation, conquest, or displays of force. Humans had a different philosophy. They chose mercy. They chose to act when necessary and to restrain themselves when possible. That was what made them extraordinary. Arrival at the Galactic Council, the shuttle docked at the orbiting station above Aloria Prime, the seat of the Galactic Council. Representatives from dozens of species were present, each with their own suspicions and prejudices. Many had dismissed humans as weak, fragile, or harmless. Valith's heart raced as she prepared to present the data. She was nervous not for herself but for humanity. "Ready?" Elias asked quietly. Valith nodded. "I'll start. You follow my lead." They entered the grand chamber. Alien delegates turned toward them, whispering in dozens of languages. Many eyes widened at the sight of a human among them. Some sneered. Others shook their heads in disbelief. Valith cleared her throat. "Esteemed members of the Council, we have returned from Zyphora Prime with new information about humans. Information that will change how this species is viewed across the galaxy." A few delegates laughed quietly. "Humans? Change perception." One Cran elder raised a scaly eyebrow, skeptical. Valith ignored the whispers and activated her scanner, displaying recordings of Elias facing the apex hunter. The chamber fell silent. The holographic image showed the human calmly confronting the massive predator, dodging, striking, and ultimately subduing it with unmatched skill. The council members gasped. A Shiler delegate muttered something about impossible human strength. Another whispered to a neighbor, "It cannot be real." Elias stepped forward, his calm presence commanding attention. "What you see is not a display of aggression. It is the result of survival, instinct, and intelligence. Humans do not seek to dominate or conquer. We act when necessary. We choose when to show strength and when to hold back." Valith watched closely. Some delegates still doubted, but most were clearly shaken. Humans had always been underestimated. Now the evidence proved that assumption wrong. Council reactions. A senior Cran warrior finally spoke. "Your species, if this is true, is stronger than we believed. But why have you not used this strength before? Why allow yourselves to be seen as weak?" Elias replied, calm and precise. "Strength without purpose is meaningless. Humans survive not to dominate others but to protect, to adapt, and to endure. We do not seek power. We respect life, even when we are stronger than those who oppose us." Valith felt a shiver of pride. She realized that humans' greatest power was not just their physical or mental abilities. It was their moral choice, their decision to restrain themselves, even when unchecked power was possible. Some delegates looked uneasy. Others seemed impressed. A few muttered that such a species could reshape the balance of power across the galaxy. Valith turned her gaze to Elias. She wondered what it must be like to live with such control, to possess such strength, and yet choose not to use it unnecessarily. Humans were not violent by nature. They were disciplined, cunning, and merciful. Unexpected threats as the council session continued. A sudden alarm rang throughout the station. Sensors detected multiple unknown ships approaching at high velocity. Panic rippled across the chamber. The council had faced attacks before, but the timing was alarming. Valith instinctively scanned the readings. These ships were armed, fast, and intelligent. Their trajectory suggested they intended to disrupt the council session. Elias stood calmly. "Stay calm, we will handle this." Valeth's heart raced. "Handle it how? These ships," Elias interrupted. "They underestimate humans, and that will be their mistake." Before Valeth could react, he moved toward the exit, ready to confront the incoming threat. His steps were steady, deliberate, and purposeful, the same way he had faced the apex hunter on Zyphora Prime. Valeth followed, scanning the incoming ships. They were technologically advanced, but their tactics were predictable. And humans thrived on unpredictability. Human ingenuity, the human moved through the station corridors with speed and precision. He reached a control room and activated the defense systems, redirecting energy shields and creating safe escape routes for council delegates. Valeth could hardly believe her eyes. Humans didn't just fight with strength. They outthought threats, anticipated their moves, and acted decisively. The alien attackers, confident in their superior firepower, were stunned as the station's automated systems, guided by Elia's quick calculations, countered every strike. Even the Cran soldiers and Shiler delegates watched in awe. Valeth realized that humans had a gift not just of physical survival, but of strategic brilliance, an ability to turn even the most dangerous situations into opportunities. Resolution within minutes, the attackers were neutralized. The council chamber was safe. Delegates looked around, still shaking with disbelief. Many approached Valeth and Elias, asking questions, offering apologies for underestimating humans. Elias addressed the room, calm but firm. "Humans do not seek to rule through fear. We act to protect, to endure, and to survive. That is our choice, and it is a choice that defines our species." Valeth felt a deep respect, almost awe. She realized that humanity's power was not just in muscles or weapons. It was in their mind, their courage, and their restraint. They had survived countless challenges, yet remained humble. They had the ability to dominate, but they chose mercy. The council voted to officially revise humanity's status. Humans would no longer be considered weak or insignificant. They were a species to be respected, observed, and carefully understood. Valeth stood beside Elias, watching the council members debate with new eyes. The galaxy had begun to see what she had seen first on Zyphora Prime. Humans were extraordinary, not just for survival, but for the choices they made when survival was on the line. Valeth's reflection. Later, Valeth walked the quiet halls of the station, reflecting on everything she had witnessed. She thought of the apex hunter, lying motionless on Zyphora Prime. She thought of the attackers outside the station. She thought of the countless worlds where humans had survived challenges no other species could endure. She understood now why humans were underestimated. It was not because they lacked strength. It was because their greatest strength was invisible, measured not in power alone, but in the courage to act, the intelligence to survive, and the restraint to show mercy. Valeth smiled softly. The galaxy might fear humans one day. Some species might try to challenge them. But she knew the truth. Humans did not need to dominate to be formidable. They simply needed to exist, adapt, and act when it mattered most. And that was enough. The legacy begins as the shuttle departed the station. Valeth watched the stars pass by. She knew that humanity's story was only beginning. The species had faced impossible odds, survived predators, wars, and hostile worlds, and still retained a moral compass that most species could not comprehend. She turned to Elias, who looked out at the stars with quiet confidence. "I understand now," she said. "Humans are not just strong. They are everything we feared and hoped for. They are the species that can change the galaxy, not through fear, but through choice." Elias smiled faintly. "And that is exactly what we intend to do." Valeth nodded, a sense of awe filling her chest. Humanity had revealed its true nature, and the galaxy would never be the same. The shuttle flew into the starry expanse, carrying the humans and the knowledge of their strength into the unknown. The apex hunter was only the beginning. The galaxy had been warned. Humans are not to be underestimated. She witnessed a human tear an apex predator into pieces effortlessly.